Well, that sure sucked, didn't it?
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jason Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for over a decade, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. You get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. As I've mentioned, I am the host of Locked On Ducks and have been the host for the last 6 seasons of Locked On Anaheim Ducks. I'm also the public address voice for the Coachella Valley Firebirds. I haven't seen a game like this. Not in a long time. The game last night against the Vancouver Canucks was probably their worst game of the season and probably their worst game in at least a year, maybe longer. Yes, it was hockey fights, cancer night, hence the ribbon, hence the tie. This was about as bad a game as you could get for that crowd. And there are so many horrible takeaways from this game. If I had to take one or two or multiple takeaways from this game, and there's a few here by this putrid performance. I'm not going to go with special teams because I feel like that's an easy out. If I'm going to have a big takeaway, it's that the Ducks just had zero energy in the last 2 periods. The whole energy at Honda Center was completely sucked out of the building by the time it was the middle of the third period. And you could just feel that there was absolutely no energy in the players, no energy in the stands, no energy from any of the fans. I mean, it's like we were in some weird Twilight Zone Tuesday night. I mean, a lot of stuff was going on Tuesday night, but just to see the complete evaporation of any kind of energy, any kind of good feeling in the Ponza. I mean, it was completely gone by the end of the game. I mean, just completely. And you could feel it even through the television. You could feel the energy being sucked out of that building as the minutes wore on, as it became the second period. And especially during the third period, there was nothing from the Ducks at all. I don't know if that can be attributed to just other stuff going on. I don't know if that could be attributed to just tired legs. I don't know what exactly happened there. I still don't know. I still don't get it. This Ducks team was supposed to improve. It was supposed to improve tenfold. We were supposed to see the Ducks get to at least 70 points this season. We were supposed to see a better offensive output from the Anaheim Ducks. It hasn't happened. It just hasn't. And there was just no give. I'm not going to say the E word, not that E word, but I'm going to say there was no energy from anybody that was wearing a Ducks jersey Tuesday night. None. That's what makes it sad. The offensive output was completely gone after the first goal was scored. We've seen this already multiple times this season where the Ducks get off to a fast start, they score the first goal of the game, and then they completely peter out and then allow a plethora of shots immediately after that goal. That's exactly what happened. Again, the Ducks were ahead on shots like 8-2 or 8-3, a good amount. And then they allowed Vancouver to just crawl back at the end of the first period. And then after that, it was literally all Vancouver after that. They were getting more hits. I mean, they were getting better hits. They were getting better shot quality. They were doing everything right, and the Ducks were doing everything wrong and everything in their power to lose that game. Everything. I mentioned the no energy. I also have to mention that the penalty kill did not look good during that power play goal by the Vancouver Canucks. Brock Besser just completely ripped one. After that, it felt like it was already over. Even though it was tied 1-1 at the time, it felt over. And then you had goal after goal after goal after goal, all after that. And I can't even blame one player. This was on the entire team. This was on everybody. I can maybe count on one or two fingers the Ducks players that were giving out the maximum energy in this game. And it doesn't take long, and it doesn't take much. But at least show some kind of energy, because these are the kind of games that have to stop. We cannot just keep saying, oh, this is the worst game. Oh, this is the worst. No, we've got to stop doing that. We're already, a dozen games into the season? More than a dozen games into the season. And this is, unfortunately, a pattern that has been a continuation of last season. So something's got to happen. Something's got to change. Just get the energy back. All right, we're going to head into the first intermission. I'm going to talk more in detail about this game, talk about all the Vancouver goals and what exactly went wrong for the Anaheim Ducks. Stay locked in. And now a brief word from PrizePicks. Folks, if you are not playing PrizePicks already, then what are you waiting for? Because it is the #1 daily fantasy hockey for you all to join in. And all it takes is 4 correct predictions to win up to 100 times your cash. And it is just that easy. Just predict whether X player scores higher or lower than their PrizePicks projection. And it is not just hockey. They have all kinds of other sports on there. So if you haven't already, head to PrizePicks right now. I believe it is prizepicks.com/lockedon. And when you play your first $5 lineup, you will get $50 back. Once again, submit your first $5 roster and get a $50 guarantee after your first play. PrizePicks, play your game. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you are locked in with Jason Hernandez as the Ducks fell to the Vancouver Canucks on Hockey Fights Cancer Night. Let's get right into it. This was a good start for the Anaheim Ducks yet again. I cannot count how many times this has happened, but I'm going to assume it's about a dozen. Okay, it's not a dozen times, but this has happened more than enough where the Ducks get off to a hot start. This was a good goal too, because this was right on the power play, and this was just after we had gotten a pretty bad penalty from Atu Ratu for tripping Brock McGinn. And right after that, I mean, it wasn't even that far into the power play, maybe a few seconds, maybe 20 seconds, where that first unit finally struck for the Anaheim Ducks. This is something that I've been kind of hoping for all season long so far, is that the first unit gets going. And that's exactly what happened. McTavish dishing off to Troy Terry, and Troy Terry right to Olin Zellweger for his second of the season. And Troy Terry, once again, piling up the points. He is on pace to score about 70 points this season, which is pretty solid. So Ducks are off to a 1-0 lead. And they would continue to maintain that lead, even though there was little bit of action and just a minimal amount of, okay, we're just going to chuck the puck this way. We're going to pass it back and forth. Vancouver did get a power play, an initial power play, and did nothing on it. So good on the PK on that first power play for Vancouver. Then the wheels kind of fell off a little bit. It was kind of after that Ducks goal that they allowed a couple shots, but they got right back into it, and they were ahead in shots, and they were even on shot attempts, if you could believe that. Then after that first power play, things began to take a turn because Brock Besser then scored on the power play from Quinn Hughes. Yeah, that Quinn Hughes, to make it a 1-1 tie. Not even a minute later, former Duck and former San Diego goal, Kiefer Sherwood, just ripped one. He absolutely put his entire body into it. He put all his weight into it. He just leaned in and went, ugh, and got it past Lukas Dostal to make it 2-1 Vancouver. Yeah, the former Duck doing it to his old team. Kiefer Sherwood sure does that. He likes to do that, doesn't he? He likes to have a little bit of revenge against his former teams. So that's exactly what happened there. And just like that, in the blink of an eye, all of a sudden it is 2-1 Vancouver, even though the Ducks almost got out of that first period with a 1-0 lead. I mean, those goals came late in the first period. As I'm watching this game, I'm thinking, okay, this is a good start. They're actually showing something. And then once the Vancouver Canucks scored those 2 goals, it's like they just deflated the Anaheim Ducks after that. The Ducks were winning in shots. They were winning, I think it was 7-3 or 7-2, but there was a good distance between the Ducks and the Canucks in the first maybe 15 minutes. Actually, no, I'd say the first 12 minutes of the game. This one felt like it was all Ducks. And then after that, Besser and Sherwood, 2-1. Then the second period, the Ducks, they just kind of lost it. They lost it at that point. They were fighting for dear life. There was one good moment on this one, or not good, but there was one promising moment in this one. Cutter Gauthier, who I've mentioned in the recent past, on a recent podcast. Those of you everydayers know that Cutter Gauthier likes to take his fair amount of shots, and he has a good amount of shot attempts. He's also been snake-bitten, where he will have pucks that are either going to whiz just wide by a few inches, or it'll hit the post, and that's exactly what happened. By the way, that's already his 4th such shot attempt this season, where it rings the iron and doesn't go in. You would think that one of those 4 would go in, but no. That's the part where I say he's a little bit snake-bitten. He's had some bad luck. After that many shot attempts, you should be able to at least get one of them through. No, that has not happened. So Cutter Gauthier getting the short end of the stick again. 4 shot attempts on this one. 2 shots on goal. One of them, I said one of the misses. Just horrible luck. Horrible luck. Second period, Elias Pettersson scored his second of the season. This one came early in the second. All of a sudden, it is 3-1 Vancouver, and they kept pressing. They kept pressing on and on and on in that second period, just outplaying them, out-hustling them, out-shooting them, doing everything in their power to keep the Ducks away from the puck, and they succeeded in all of that. Shots in the second period, 16-6. Oh, but it doesn't get much better than that, because third period, Vancouver scored not once but twice. Jake DeBrusk scored about halfway through the period, and then very late in the game, with about a minute and a half left, former Duck Danton Heinen, Danton scored. Yeah. Oh, by the way, the apple on that one, the assist, came from Kiefer Sherwood. That's your final score, 5-1. And poor Dostal just was left to dry by the defense the last 45 minutes of the game. It was all Lukas Dostal show. The expected goals in this one were something like 4-2. I don't remember. I don't have it exactly on me. But I remember it was like 4-1.5 actually. That's about what I thought it was going to be after the second period. So for what it's worth, Lukáš Dostal was expected to give up 4. He gave up 5, mostly due to that kind of weird, cheesy goal towards the end of the game for Danton Heinen. Just one of those goals you're like, really? Really, man? It's already 4-1. How many more points do you need? So that's your final score, 5-1. No energy. Just no energy at all on this one. Shots at the end of the game were a whopping 37-22 in favor of Vancouver. Stop me if you've heard this one before, everydayers. The Ducks were outshot big time towards the end of the game. The last 2 periods, the Ducks were outshot by Vancouver 31-14. The shot attempts in the last 2 periods, 53-27. That is almost doubling up your opponent. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad once again. All right, let's do this. Let's head to the second intermission. I will have some final thoughts on this game and some final general thoughts about the Ducks on the other side. And now a brief word from FanDuel, which is America's #1 sportsbook. Look, the NBA season has begun. The NHL season has begun. The NBA, full swing. Look at the Warriors right now. NHL, Winnipeg, still looking good. You also have the NFL. We're about halfway through that season, and no one does this better than FanDuel, which, by the way, on the same page, you can view live odds, live, play-by-play stats, all in the comfort of one window. So if you have a hunch and you're like, okay, this is a plus 110, I'm going to go for this one. If you have a hunch, then go to FanDuel right now, because with your first winning $5 bet, you will get up to $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. Once again, $5, your first win nets you at least or up to $150 in bonus bets. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. And please, folks, gamble responsibly. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you are locked in with Jason Hernandez. I mentioned the lack of energy. I mentioned the lack of just doing much on special teams. They were not getting to the dirty areas. It's like they were afraid to get dirty. They were afraid to bump a little bit in the offensive zone. They were afraid to get in the way. The one thing that I did like about that Ducks goal was that there was a monumentally perfect screen by Mason McTavish. And then all of a sudden, they kind of stopped doing that. They stopped creating traffic. They stopped getting in front of the goalie and pissing him off. None of that was going on after the first 15, 20 minutes. There was hardly any screening going on. High danger chances? Oh, forget about that. What are we talking about, high danger chances? You know how many high danger chances the Ducks had the entire game? You ready for this? I can count it in one hand. In fact, it's less than one hand. The Anaheim Ducks had 2, count them, 2 high danger chances. I know it felt like kind of a boring game and there was little action going on for certain amounts of time, but for minutes at a time between both teams, there was very little action, just kind of pass the puck back and forth. Okay, we have it, we'll dump it in, we'll change it. Oh, the Ducks have it. Now they're going to dump it in, now they're going to change. That's what it felt like for most of the second period. It was kind of bordering on boring. Maybe it was boring to some of you. High danger chances for Vancouver, 15. 15-2 was the high danger chances in favor of the Vancouver Canucks. Oh, and by the way, shot attempts, 72-41. Most of those coming in the second and third periods. The first period was fine for the Ducks. They were fine. They were doing well. Nothing much had to change there. And yet they changed it up at least somewhat during the last period. Oy. Not the way to get wins. The way to get wins is to have better consistency on your lines. The way to win if you're the Anaheim Ducks is to get a little bit more effort from your middle six guys, for example, because they were not showing a whole lot on this one. Maybe get some more from your young guns. I mentioned Cutter Gauthier. That one is about being snake bitten, honestly. That goal could have gone either way. It probably should have gone in, and it didn't. When is Cutter Gauthier going to score his first goal? I'll ask you, when do you think he's going to score his first goal? Is it ever going to happen? It feels like it's never going to happen because we've talked about this time and time again where Cutter Gauthier has a shot, has an open shot, takes it, and just comes up just wide. Or shots on the post. I've mentioned shots on the post several times. This team is snake bitten. This team does have bad luck, but this Ducks team also needs to clamp down on defense because you are leaving Łukasz Dostal high and dry. He had to make that many saves. He had to make 32 saves. He had to at least save face for the Anaheim Ducks. And honestly, some of those players should be ashamed of themselves. Radko Gudas, another kind of so-so game on defense. Cam Fowler looked lost out there at times on defense. I don't know what exactly is going on there, but that has got to stop. All right. I'm kind of at a loss for words on this one, so we're going to wrap this one up right now. But I sincerely want to thank you all so much for your continued support, especially times like these, especially right now. Those of you that have sent in just good thoughts, I really very much appreciate them. All right. Don't forget this podcast is free and available across all platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, etc., etc. You can follow me on Twitter X at StimpyJD. The show's Twitter X is at LO_Ducks. We're also ad-free on Amazon. We're also on YouTube, so hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's see. The Twitter X, I mentioned that's StimpyJD, LO_Ducks. You could drop me a line. Drop me an email at lockedonanaheimducks@gmail.com. Once again, thank you all for your continued support, especially in times like these. It is so greatly appreciated. For Locked On Anaheim Ducks, I'm Jason Hernandez saying have a great rest of the day. Please remember to be safe out there. Please be kind to one another. Please be kind to yourselves. And Ducks fly together.